Okay, good morning, everyone. How are y'all today? Here in Northeast Louisiana, we are bracing ourselves for more storms tonight. Sherry Martin, my guest today, is here also. I'm sure they're kind of watching the skies like I am. Don't worry too much about it. God's in control, but we know we have some bad weather coming later today. But I mentioned Sherry. Sherry is a good friend of mine. We've known each other, what do you think, 6 or 7 years, Sherry?
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah, we she's a dear friend. We go attend the same church, and that's how we met, through a mutual friend at the church. And I'm going to let Sherry tell you a little bit about herself.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you. Thanks, Cindy, for having me on. I really do appreciate it. I've been looking forward to the time to speak with you, because I do love to tell our story. We're thankful for our story. But I'm a mother of two grown children, have seven grandchildren, and the oldest one is 21 and the youngest one is 8. And so, yeah, we're enjoying that. Gina and I are here in North Monroe, and just have a little dog now, which we never had in our whole lives. But and she's my husband's little buddy. So.
Oh yeah. Tell everybody her name, Sherry. I love her name because when you speak a name over a child or any even your animals, but especially over children, that's you're speaking life over them, and their names have a meaning. But her name is so awesome. I love it.
That's so funny. She's a 5-pound Chihuahua, and her name is Good Girl.
Yeah.
And we named her Good Girl for actually to pronounce over her that she is a good girl, because sometimes Chihuahuas can be a little cranky, and now we've learned some other things that they can be. But when we first got her, we named her Good Girl, and so it's a unique name, but it's one that reinforces a behavior that we want her to have, that we want to also feel about her. We want to feel that she's good.
Yeah.
And so
I had
thank
a
you
feeling
for
that's
asking
why you
that.
named her that. That is so awesome. I just
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. Thank
Okay.
you.
Well, let's talk about you and your husband, Gene, launched a business. I'm gonna name the business if you don't mind. Here in Monroe,
Sure.
all plumbing. If you're in the
Mhm.
Monroe or you're in the Northeast Louisiana area, you have heard of All Plumbing, a very
Mhm.
successful plumbing business. I heard your story of how y'all launched that business. It was a family effort, is my understanding. And please tell us that story today, how y'all, the beginnings and how you launched that business.
Well, when at beginning, I was preparing, to tell the group about us. And so I do really want to start from the beginning. Gene was a pastor for 6 years, and he decided a lot of different things, that he was really not called to be a pastor. So we are continued to minister, but we left the pastorate and moved to Monroe. We were in Lake Providence. We moved to Monroe, which is just the nearest town to us. And we were so broke. We had really no money, and friends invited us or gave us money to move, and we helped us rent a house, helped us clean it up, helped us pay for a couple of months rent. My brother, who has some connections with the state, he got us jobs, and they were low paying jobs. We interviewed for them, got them on our own, but they were low paying jobs. And so my part of my husband's business job was to travel. And so one day he was driving by and he noticed a pawn shop. At the pawn shop, in front of the pawn shop, there was a beat up old red lawnmower, a push lawnmower. I'm not talking about one of these wide things. It's just a little small red beat up lawnmower. We could tell it was red, but most of it was brown. And as he began passing that way each day, the lawnmower was still there, and he began sensing in himself just a download, like I've heard you say many times. I will help you. And it makes me tear up just to hear that, because my husband listened. He kept driving by the pawn shop, and finally one day he pulled in and he asked the man how much he wanted for the lawnmower. And he said $35. Well, $35 could have been $3,000 for us at that point. We were just not doing well at all. And so anyway, we decided to save for the lawnmower because my husband still, it was just pulling him. And so he bought the lawnmower finally and took it home and just had to rebuild the whole thing. And he went to my neighbor's house and he told my neighbor, I've started, I'm mowing yards now. Can I mow your yard? And she said, well, how much do you charge? And he said, I'll do you a really good job for a really good price, $10. And so she allowed him to do it. Now this was in 87. And so when he finished those, she paid him $20. Well, in his mind, my husband, who's an entrepreneur, he thought, well, if I could do one lawn a day, I can make $50 if I just do it 5 days a week after work. Well, she paid him 20. Well, then his mind went to like, hey, I can make $100, to add to our income, which would have been phenomenal. I mean, at that point, it would have been like winning the lottery. And so he did that for the summer. Well, the winter came and we had no lawns to mow. And I will say this, my son went with my husband and was with him every step of the way and everything that he did. My husband included him. Sometimes my son wasn't willing, but he did it. And so in the wintertime, a friend of his said, well, I've got some chimney sweep equipment that I'm wanting to sell. Would you like to buy it? And Jeannie said, well, I don't have any money to buy it. The guy said, well, you can work it off. As you get the jobs, you can pay for the chimney sweep equipment. So Jean thought about it, and it was like when he was mowing grass, every yard he passed was like, that's a job. That's a job. And then when he got the chimney sweep equipment, he saw all of a sudden all he could see was chimneys. I can clean that chimney. I can clean that chimney. And so then it came spring again. Well, he went back to the lawn care. Well, during that time, a woman asked him if he could fix her leaky faucet. And he had some pipe fitting work training before we entered the pastorate. And so, but it was on big jobs like bridges or coliseums, stuff like that. So he didn't really know he could do residential plumbing. He fixed her leaky faucet, and she paid him more than she paid him to mow her lawn. And she began to tell her other friends. It was like our neighbor who he mowed her yard. She told her friends, and they started calling my husband. Well, then this lady started calling her friends, and so they would call my husband to do plumbing. And so he was making more money doing plumbing. Well, that winter, it became a terrible ice storm came. I believe that was the winter of 89. And as we saw the icy conditions coming, it was severe, almost like we had a couple of weeks ago. And so my husband prepared a flyer. We went and had lots of copies of it made. And while he was working, repairing plumbing, my family and I went canvass neighborhoods, and we put out all the flyers in all these neighborhoods about my husband being able to repair their plumbing. Well, this really kicked off his business. And so after the plumbing freeze, and he had fixed some pipes and all there, then he had lots of jobs. Well, he was still working his full-time job. So he could only work after 5 and until it got dark. And then most of the time he was repairing equipment at night. Well, he started, one day I looked out and he was in the backyard. He was spray painting some pieces of wood and stenciling, had plumbing repair and his telephone number. And he went down to Southside where he could do work because we weren't an official business. He nailed up these signs all over the place, wherever he could. And a woman called him that had 100+ rentals, and she wanted him to do her plumbing. And he said, well, I work full time. I can only do it after my work, and then on Saturdays I can do it. And she said, that's fine. These people work too, and they're rentals. They know they may need to wait. And so actually she started Gene. She got enough work for him to start thinking about. That's when he started thinking about a business. He could do it because he was making lots more money doing plumbing on the side and on Saturdays than he was at his regular job. And actually, that's how the plumbing company started. And so that was we actually started it in 90. And that's kind of a funny story because he did quit his job, his full-time job, and he hired a guy that worked for him. Well, they were working out of their beat up trucks. And one day he wanted to buy a truck, another truck. Mm-hmm. And I just panicked. I thought, we can't do this. We don't have money to invest in this. Well, actually we did, but from my background, I guess I was just holding on to the assets that we had because, I knew what it was like not to have anything. And so we went to ULM, which was NLU at the time. And we had a meeting with Dr. Dunn, who was in the business development department. And he assured us that from Gene's history and what was up to date, he encouraged Gene to do this. And he encouraged me to let Gene have the resources, use the resources that he needed, to do the job. And so he never stopped then. And my husband is a tenacious worker. And in 93, I was working at the bank to continue our health insurance. And the bank was bought by another company. And so I was going to have to move to New Orleans. So I entered the plumbing business with him full time. And we expanded the company and bought some property. My son worked for us. He started on a truck as a helper. He worked for a journeyman plumber, then he became a master plumber. And actually in 2098, my husband had worked so hard, so many hours, he really got burned out. And so my son came into the business at that point with me, and we continued the business. And in 2015, we sold our remaining shares to my son, and he owns the business now. And I don't mind saying, because I'm glad, I'm thankful for the blessings of the Lord. It was a multi-million-dollar business when we sold it.
And God is so good. From a $35 beat up lawnmower to
yes.
a multi-million-dollar business. That is right. A testimony. That's a testimony. What do you think, with your experience in mind? And we talked some Sunday. I may combine these couple of questions together and let you kind of expound on that. We talked some Sunday about this, and you have a lot of experience of living with an entrepreneur. You told me you were more of the implementer.
Right.
He's the ideal person.
Yeah. My husband can get an idea from here to CVS about what somebody could do.
and that's good. Yeah. That's good. But all entrepreneurs need someone to keep their feet on the ground at times. I mean, they need to dream, but they need to. So tell me, what do you think it takes to be an entrepreneur? Who do you need in your corner? And tell me that type of stuff. I know people would like to hear, because I have entrepreneurs on here, and I have people who are married or partnered with entrepreneurs.
Well, I think for us, we were blessed because we both, if you know anything about DISC or other personality things, I'm a high D and he's a DC. So, with me, I'm the task person. I get it done. And so I think we're blessed to have each other. I have no mechanical, technical skills at all. I don't know. I couldn't do anything, no matter if I've lived with him for this long, still nothing. And I think, though, we at first thought that our friends and family would be our supporters, but they were not. And I think it was because they loved us so much that the risk, they didn't want us to lose. They didn't want it to turn out wrong or bad for us, because we had never done it before. And I think a good thing for us was we didn't have anything to lose, actually. So that was a good starting point. When you have something that you can actually risk, it might be different, but we were risk takers. But I look back and think, well, we really didn't have that much to risk. And since that time, though, we've taken on other projects that we have taken risk on. And so becomes, once you take risk and go through that process, it's easier to take another risk, I think, and it builds it up. But Dr. Dunn at the ULM Center really helped us, and the Business Development Center there. He was our first mentor. And from then, instead of listening to people who could not encourage us, they were actually afraid, I think, to encourage us. We went to national associations and joined plumbing groups. We mentored, they were our mentors. We joined in their groups. It cost us money. If I had the money, if I was going to start a business and I had the money, I would definitely start with a franchise or some organized organization, rather than that. We just started. We didn't know anything about business. We'd never worked for anybody who had a business. We worked for banks and governments. So we didn't know anything about policies, procedures. So all that we made up.
Okay. And that's important. And you brought something up, and I wasn't going to mention this. We kind of talked about this Sunday, but Sherry and I are both life coaches. We come from different what is the word I'm looking for? Well, we got our certifications through different people.
Yeah.
But we both believe that you need something that has a good foundation. And
yes.
And that's kind of what you were talking to make sure you join a group that aligns with your values. I believe that she would align with the values in my group, and I know I align with the values in her group, but different ones spoke to us. And that's important. And I think both of our reasons was our Christian values. Both of the people that we certified under, the groups we certified under, are Christian based groups. And that's important. Your values are so important, that you align yourself with those people in your business who are foundationally the same as you. You can't, scripture tells us you can't be unequally yoked. And that's true in business, and that's true with mentorships, anything. You've got to be aligned with the people that you want to do business with, and the people you want to mentor you. So
that's a good point, because in 2011, Jason, we were operating the business, and I became very, very frustrated with the business, very frustrated. I felt like that I was just pushing and pulling. I wasn't, I was very frustrated. And that's when actually I decided we're just going to sell this business. We're going to move to Dallas and start over. So I got on the computer and started putting in search words. And that's when the John Maxwell team was starting. And actually, I guess something that I put in there, how the word searches work. And they sent me an email saying they were going to start this leadership team, and gave me information, wanted to see if I would consider joining. And so as I was searching for that, John Maxwell's book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, was the basis for it. And I read the first law, which is the law of the lid.
Yes.
And that says your personal I can't think of the word. Abilities. You can go from, you can have from 1 to 10 in your personal abilities, but if you don't have leadership on that line, it's like a vertical axis. If leadership ability is not there, then you cannot expand. It's your lid. And so, I started looking at the leadership laws after that, and I thought, this is nobody's problem but mine. So I owned responsibility for what it was. And I began implementing those leadership principles, and the whole business changed.
Yeah.
The whole environment, the whole culture. And it was me that was the problem, not my employees, not my customers, not the economy, not the other plumbers in town, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Isn't that usually where the problem is? It's usually the person that's sitting in the seat is usually the problem. The person sitting in your chair that's what I have found in my life. When something needs adjusting, it's usually me.
Look, and that is so true, but it's surprising to people. When I coach people, it always starts out with they, what they, but if they, and then, we have to turn it around to look at where we can't do anything about them, but we can control everything about us.
Yes. And until you grasp that, you're going to have difficulty being successful in any area of your life. That's a law. And the John Maxwell's book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws, they are laws. They're just like biblical principles are principles, and they apply to anybody, whether you are a Christian or not. If it's a biblical principle and you live under it, you're going to prosper from it. If you don't, even as a Christian, if you don't follow that principle, you're not going to prosper. Someone over here who, like I say, is not a Christian can be prospering from something you refuse to do.
Right.
So, and the irrefutable laws of leadership are the same thing. You can apply them to your life or not. I have so many Maxwell books on my shelf. It is unreal. And the group I coach with, Ula, they talk about Maxwell. You'll hear them mention Maxwell quite a bit. He's great. He is great. I've always thought the world of him. Love to hear him tell a story. He can tell a story like nobody else.
Well, you know what he tells us. I didn't tell that story just today. I mean, there was a point in his storytelling that it was a one day, but the stories that he compiles, those are stories that over the years he has found and indexed and pulls out to bring, to his messages.
Yes, and it's always appropriate, the right way. I'll mention this, and then we're going to have to start closing up. But one of my favorites, and I can listen to it over and over again, is the one about the gentleman who decided to tie the weather balloons to the lawn chair. And and he got in the chair, and I can't tell it like Maxwell. Y'all need to go look it up. He ties the weather balloons, and he wants to fly up, and he arms himself with a sandwich and a BB gun.
Yes.
And he gets up so high, he starts trying, and he gets in the flight path of jets. To listen to Maxwell tell that story, I cry every time I hear it because it is so funny. He is a master storyteller. It's one of my favorites. It's absolutely one of my favorites. I may have to find it and put it in my group so y'all can hear it. I'll see if I can find a way to link to it, because you really need to hear that. It's an awesome story. Yeah. But Sherry, I have enjoyed this so much. I honestly believe you have encouraged people today. There's no way your story can't encourage people.
Well, I want to encourage people to trust themselves. We have found that intuition, which is the Holy Spirit, is what, as Christians, I believe in intuition from the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
And I believe in that leading us. And going back to the story with my husband, that was the Holy Spirit, the lawnmower, the messaging from the lawnmower. I will help you. Every chimney he saw, I will help you reach your dream. And then when he began plumbing, the message, this is your business. And so I encourage people to trust their instincts. Their especially if you feel like you're an entrepreneur. It takes tenacity, it takes risk taking, but it's the greatest. To me, it's just the greatest experience, because that you can have is to build something on your own that you can have, that's yours, and you can take responsibility for it.
Right. I agree 100%. everybody, thank y'all for being here today. I love y'all, and I love Sherry to death. She's just a dear friend of mine. Encourage people to come out here and listen to this, because I'm telling you, people need to hear this. I'm going to post it in YouTube. I'm going to post across so y'all can, if you have friends that don't want to join the group but they want to hear this message, it will be available. Again, I love y'all. Sherry, any last words?
I just want to thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate you. To us, this is a God story. This is this is a story about us and our walk with God. It's no more different than anything else in our lives. God has led us through this, and I just want to thank you for having me on. I appreciate everyone listening. If you do want to share our story, please do, because it's just a God-inspired story.
Yes. Thank y'all. Y'all have a wonderful weekend. Bye.
Thank you.